right, welcome into Teal, the show. The Jaguars have the week off, so we've got a very special show for you here where we're going to sum up kind of the first 10 weeks of the season so far. We've got 1010XL's Frank Frangie, we've got Jaguars team reporter Ashlyn Sullivan, and we've got ESPN Jaguars reporter Mike DeRocco all here. It's been an interesting first 10 weeks of the year. Is this where you think the team or thought the team would be before the year started?
I've gone back and forth, Jamal. At one point, I thought they were going to be a team that won 6 or 7 games. Then after that, I said, well, wait a minute. They're pretty good. They're 2-1. Now I think they're going to win 9 or 10 games. Now they're struggling a little bit, so now I'm back to 6 or 7 games. So if you talk about before the season, yeah, they're kind of where I thought they'd be, but I've changed on this a little. I've kind of gone back and forth on this.
For sure, and you're spot on. Post-week 3, Los Angeles, big win. I said, all right, maybe this team's something special. Maybe they will go above the X's and O's of what we thought this team would be. But I'm, like Frank, kind of back to reality. I thought at this point maybe you're 5-5. I thought they would squeak out some of those close games and get more wins. I think the Texans game is a great example of that. I thought that was a for sure win, and they surprised us all. So, yeah, 5-5, I think. You know, that's what I thought. They aren't there quite yet.
Yeah, I go back to the win over the Los Angeles Chargers. That kind of changed everybody's perception. So we either overcompensated and thought they are headed for the playoffs. But, you know, I just think they're right where I expected them to be. I think they're a 6-7 win team. And the bottom line is, if you had flipped the results of the Texans and the Chargers game, everybody would be like 3-7. It's probably where we thought they'd be.
Right. Before the year started, I thought 4 wins at this point of the year, and the Texans game was that one game that I thought I was like, okay, pencil that one in. Didn't have the Chargers one penciled in for sure. No one did. That one was by far a surprise. So they're not exactly far off from where I expected them to be, but that Chargers game, I think it changed a lot of expectations. But that early season play from Trevor Lawrence also started to kind of open some eyes on where we thought this team could be headed and maybe even where he was headed. How have you thought Trevor Lawrence has fared so far this year?
I think he's right on schedule. I think Trevor Lawrence is right where you thought Trevor Lawrence would be. It's hard to play quarterback in the NFL. It's a hard job. So you're going to throw some interceptions that in year 3 you're not going to throw. You're going to see some things in year 3 that you don't see right now. So I think he's right on schedule. 13 touchdowns and 6 picks. Remember, 2 of those picks now are Hail Marys. So it's really 13 and 4 if you think about it. I think he's on schedule. I think he's going to be fantastic. I'm not dissuaded at all from my early thoughts that Trevor Lawrence is going to have a big career in the NFL.
Especially if you base it off the past 2 weeks, right? Finally, back-to-back consistent performances, a passer rating over 100. And we spoke to Trevor Lawrence this week on Jaguars.com, and he told us this is the most confident he has ever felt in his playing career. Coach Peterson telling us it's starting to click. He's getting it. It's clear. Yes, it's clicking. It took a little while to click, but I think if you base off the past 2 weeks, yeah, you're really happy where Trevor is right now.
Yeah, look, 5 games where he's had a completion percentage of over 70 and a passer rating of over 100. One of those games last year. So even if you're just looking straight numbers, yeah, he is going like this. He is right on track. The next step is let's see it a little bit more consistently.
You know what I think, too? Do you guys think this, too? He started to feel loose and free and easy, and I think you're seeing that in the running plays. Yeah. He was kind of almost hesitant to run before. Don't get hurt. Should you run? Should you not run? I think we're seeing a loose, confident, kind of almost like a schoolyard play. Did you guys sense that, D-Rock, a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit for sure. And I think, you know, you go back to the mic'd up against the Raiders, and he's like, I love it when you hit me. I play better when you hit me.
Yeah. That's
trash
not
talk.
what,
Right. I mean, like, that is the cleanest trash talk in the history of the world. That's like Phillip Rivers is like, whoa, that's way too clean.
Yeah. He's impressive.
But I mean, the bottom line is, I think you said it, he's feeling more confident. And when you're feeling more confident, that kind of stuff comes out.
Yeah, his decision making, it's clear. Way more better decisions. The bonehead play that Coach Peterson liked to talk about, we haven't seen that the past couple of weeks. So yeah, based off that, definitely progressing.
I still want to see the sprint out called again on the goal line and then see where he goes with the ball. And then I'll have a little bit better idea.
Knowing Doug Peterson, you know he's going to have to call it just one more time. He has to see his guy be able to go out there and make that good decision. If it's not there, if it's there, he's going to call it again. We know that's going to happen. And a big part of Trevor Lawrence's growth definitely has been the presence of Doug Peterson. When Teal the Show returns, we'll talk a little bit more about what Doug Peterson's impact has meant on this Jaguars team. That's straight ahead right after the break. Welcome back into Teal the Show. You know, the big addition for the Jaguars this offseason was the hiring of Doug Peterson. It was a long coaching search that none of us had any idea where it was going, but once they finally got a guy who's hoisted the Lombardi Trophy before, I don't think very many people could complain. So now that Doug Peterson has been here and he's coached the team for 10 years, or 10 games, sorry.
It's been a long season, but not that long.
Season, not that long. How do we feel about the job that Doug Peterson has done so far? He knew he had a project on his hands when he walked in the door, so no one was expecting him to just come in and take over the NFL day one, but there's been growth week to week.
I don't think there's any question. Getting to know him, he's a special guy, and he's the right guy for this culture and this fan base and this team and this young quarterback. He's a regular guy. Now, you'd always heard that. I talked to Merrill Reese, who was the play-by-play guy for the Eagles, who's a friend of mine. He said, you're going to love this guy because he's down to earth. But you got to see it for yourself. I think he's really that guy, and I think that's what it takes to connect with a young team. Young guys are young guys. They get excited. They get nervous. They get yelled at. He's the perfect guy, perfect coach. I think he's done a fantastic job.
He is. He's such a, it's funny to say, he's a normal person who's a very good football coach. The other day I was in the hallway and he was asking Sheriff about turkey hunting, and he's asking Logan Cook about fishing. He's just like this normal guy that just happens to be a great football coach. We joke in the building, he's like the big brother that just has hugged everyone and said, we're going to do it my way now. Like, come on, let's all go my way now. Let's go in my direction. And it's working. It's this huge calming presence in the building. Everyone is happier, equipment, trainers, you name it. Everyone just has a smile on their face, despite at one point a 5-game losing streak. And I thought that spoke volumes.
And that's exactly the kind of person that they needed to take over after last year, you know. Just maybe, you know. Doug Peterson's talked a lot about the team needing to heal from what happened last year, and he just has that exact perfect personality type to help with that healing process.
Yeah, he's got that whole favorite uncle kind of mentality a little bit.
Yeah, he does.
Like, in Thanksgiving, you're going to hang out with him, maybe not some of the other relatives because he's got some good stories and he's funny. You know, that's what, more than what the whole team, that's what Trevor Lawrence needed after last year.
Yeah.
That if you're going to make Trevor Lawrence into a franchise quarterback, you had to have a guy that could do it. And look, to me, the biggest plus for Doug Peterson is the fact that he won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Right. Okay? So we all remember the Nick Foles experiment here. So the fact that he won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles and outdueled Brady and Belichick, that was all I needed to hear.
Yeah, and you know, we've seen some of those gutsy calls like the Philly special. We've seen a lot of fourth down tries, and that aggressiveness, the players love it. I know a lot of fans sometimes are like, why is he going for it? Take the points. And even us up in the press box are like, why is he going for it on fourth down here? But the players absolutely love that mentality. And when you got a coach that trusts his defense like that, it's easy to understand why these guys love the way he coaches and want to play for Doug Peterson.
I'll see something else you're seeing too, Jamal. What's starting to happen now, and it's very clearly happening, he's learning his players too. You know, you don't always know him. On the interception, everybody talks about the one in London that they threw on the sprint out. You talk about the sprint out. There was one read on that play. Kirk at the pylon. If not, throw it away. There wasn't a second or third progression. But Trevor is so convinced he can get it in there because he always has.
Right.
So he's always been able to sneak because his arm's better and his arm's stronger and his receivers are good. And I think Doug had to learn that about his guy. Doug had to learn that, wait a minute, I've got a guy that's always gotten away with that, so I've got to be patient. He's got to make the mistake and make it again. And I think that's that's coming together now. Doug's learning Trevor. Trevor's learning what he can and can't do, and I think we're seeing that right now.
Yeah, he has a great big picture look on this franchise. You see with all the moves he makes and just the way he operates day to day, he's thinking 5 years down the line. It's not that, and I think it's that calming presence, that never too high, never too low, very similar to Trevor that's gotten them through this losing streak. He's the same person every single day, and my gosh, did that franchise need that.
Yeah, they definitely have needed that kind of presence that's looking ahead. And we've seen that with some of the younger players that they're making sure they get some reps too at this point in the season. So far through the year, while the record is a little disappointing at 3-7, there have been a few bright spots along the season. Who's been your first half of the season MVP?
Travis Etienne. I didn't even have to think about it. Certainly nobody on defense. I mean, as well as Tyson Campbell's playing, it's certainly no one on that side of the ball. Travis Etienne has been fantastic, and he's on pace for I think he's on pace to break Fred Taylor's rookie rushing record.
Wow.
So that's all you need to know about how good and how effective he has been. And last week notwithstanding, I think he's been their best offensive player.
Yeah, I'll go Christian Kirk. And I agree that Etienne's been their best offensive player. But most valuable player, when he's good, they're good. When he's catching balls and touchdowns, they're winning games. Yes. When he's not, when he kind of disappears a little bit, they lose the game. So I'll go Christian Kirk because of how important he's been to the games they've won.
You stole my guy. It is absolutely.
That's why I jumped in there. I saw it coming.
He had to get in first, yes. Christian Kirk, even when you look at just his statistics, he's 11th in the league right now in receiving yards. He's second in touchdowns, tie with Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. I think we take that all day long. I can't help but get a little giddy about next season when I think of Kirk with Calvin Ridley on the field as well. If the Kirk is the Kirk he's playing like right now, I can't even fathom what that's like when Calvin Ridley frees up more for him.
Are you giddy, Frank? I think you're a little giddy too.
I'm very giddy. I've been giddy since they signed him. I said sign him before they signed him. I've been giddy the whole time.
He does. He's like Christian Kirk the whole way. I'm with you, though, D-Rock. I like the idea of Travis Etienne. He is the one player on this offense that I feel like defenses have to account for at any given moment because he can take that handoff. He accelerates so quickly. The next thing you know, he's 20 yards down the field, and we're like, how did he get there? He's just so fast, and that ability that he has and that he's showing so quickly, it's what we saw during training camp last year. It's what we saw during training camp this year while we kept saying, you know, this guy's really good. This speed is different. The speed is for real. And now seeing it come together on the field, he gives the Jaguars that guy that's a threat to go 90. And I'm not sure that anybody else on that offense is that threat at the 10-yard line to go the distance, and defenses are really worried about him besides him. And when a defense has to account for a player like that, it opens up things for everybody else. So I'm with you. I like Travis Etienne, and I'm starting to think of a trio of great running backs in Jaguars history: Fred Taylor, Maurice Jones-Drew. Let's go on ahead and add Travis Etienne up there.
Good company.
It's a little early, but it's coming.
Yes.
It is definitely coming. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Teal the Show. We'll have everybody back here on Monday as we'll look at the second half of the season. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for tuning in. Good night, and go Jags.